So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to get this width of a polygon cube, but then I'm going to rotate it around to get it that thickness, right? Just watch what I'm going to do here, because we basically need to get that lumber, right? Get those boards that size. So watch what I'm going to do. In this side view here, I'm going to create a polygon cube. I can grab my scaler, scale it. Okay, I'm just going to scale it until I get it to be, and I can even kind of come up here and align it to this board. So you see what I'm doing here?
How do we get rid of the grid part again?
The grid is just this, that's this right here. Right underneath word show for me is that main grid. Now, something else that's cool here, watch this, okay? I can also put wireframe on shading. That's this box here. And even this is cool, watch this, X-ray. What X-ray does is it makes the solid values of your geometry be slightly transparent so you can see it a little bit better. So all I did was make a cube and I made it fit this board right here. Okay. Now I can come over here and open up the attributes of this. Now, if you want, you can even round out some of these numbers. You see how this is 3.986? That probably would work as a round number as 4, okay? So don't be afraid, instead of eyeballing everything up, to kind of go, see, I can basically take this number in my case and make it a 4. Okay, this is a 2.768. My guess is it probably should be 2.75. Okay, round numbers. Okay, so yours might be different, yours may not be different because of the fact we made it on 1,000 by 1,000 points. So I just rounded out these numbers a little bit more general. So instead of being 3.98, blah, 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 I made it 4. Instead of that being 67.86, I made it 68. Now, something else I can do here is start to increase the subdivisions. Now, we learned from the primitive man, we don't want subdivisions if we don't need them. It helps to kind of see your geometry a little bit better. So I have an X subdivision width, height, and depth. Let's try a 2. That didn't show anything. Let's try a 2 there. Okay, you see what that did? And let's try a 2 here. Okay, so look at what I basically have done there. In fact, this one should probably be a 3. Okay, do you see what I just did there? Doesn't look like much because we're looking at it from the side, but now you can see I've got a subdivision. I've broken this up into 3 faces. See that? By simply going here, finding the right one, which was in my case depth, and making that 3. So from this angle right now, right, this board fits that board. Make sense? Yeah. However, I'm now going to borrow that board. Watch what I'm going to do. Okay. I'm going to go to rotate. I'm going to rotate this way to make it 90. I'm going to rotate this way to make it 90. Okay. And I'm going to move it down here along this board. So now I can see where I need to scale this in this direction. See that? Which looks like it needs about exactly 10. Everyone see that?
Why did you do that?
Because I needed to get width and thickness of these boards, and it will make sense when I turn it to the perspective.
Oh, like you're trying to get it with a plank, like
See? And now it is a plank that is the proper thickness. It's like a 2x4. In this case, it could be a 1x6. I don't know. Okay. But all I did is I used that to get that thickness and length, and use this one to get that width. And you can see now The segmentation is clean. It's not too heavy. In fact, now that I look at that, I almost want to make that be a 4 instead of a 3. Because remember I said earlier, squares are your friends. See? So you almost want your segmentation to be nice, pretty squares, not stretched rectangles, because that means a texture will wrap around there very well. See that?
Wait, so you made that plank the size of the arm?
I made it from the side view.
Mhm.
I did the arm, but that just gave me thickness and length.
Mhm.
I then rotated it around so it lined up with this one so I could get that thickness. Assuming they're using the same size board and plank, because I don't have great references here. But that's the lumber. That's the lumber that will probably also work for the back. So now all I have to do is just copy or duplicate from this piece. Let me show you. Okay, I'm going to go back to my side view here. And I'm going to go Control D to duplicate. That means now I can rotate and put this one back to where it basically needed. Let's just do that, which takes me to 0. Okay. Move that up to where it originally was. Let's rotate it now back to 0 that way. Okay. And now I can take this piece here and scale it and move it so that it lines up with that one piece of leg. So I've got this piece and that piece. See that? Just that wrapper. So it looks great in this view. In fact, this one here can even come up just a smidge. Okay, I don't want it to intersect. But you see now I've got these two pieces on the side view looking correct. However, right? However, let's look at it from the front view. And here in the front view, I can see this one slat going across like this. Well, where is that slat in the side view? It looks like it's right there. Okay, see that right there? So this board here needs to be just above that middle board. See that? Which is a little bit more like that.
They must be touching correct.
And from the side view, I know that these two boards now need to be lined up like so. I guess it'd be like, actually, that one probably goes like that, and this one probably goes like so. Does that make sense? See that? Right there? So from the front view, they align to that edge right there. Actually, in here. That's right. Okay, so you can see how I'm using now the side and the front view to align that board. There. Given that this side piece here, right? This side leg going down to the back is on the outside of that up and down board. Go ahead and go back and turn my X-ray on so you can see. Okay.
There we go.
Now, one thing we need to look at though, right? I'm going to go back into my source images here because I do want to still kind of look at this. Now, We don't have this view in our reference planes, right? We don't have it. But this is what that arm needs to look like. And even now you can see what this, how that line, that leg there fits. See that? So even though we don't physically have this in our reference plane, we can see an idea of its shape. See that? Round in the front, has a little bit of a kickback here about halfway, and then round in the back. Now, we're not going to go round because that would require high, smooth polys. But I can switch here into the perspective so I can see that board. See that board? And I need more of these guys. Okay? But watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to go by edge. You zoom in a little so we can see them. Okay? At the front, I'm going to double click and grab the ring. Okay? When you double click, I'm grabbing the ring of edges all the way around. See why I did that? Right clicked on it, shows edge. Double click that edge to select that ring all the way around. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that to the left, about to there. See that? And I'm going to, well, when you double click it and you move it, like I did, I only moved it, I didn't move it from the center. I moved it only in the axes that I'm moving it, which is in my case, the yellow, see? I'm moving it in a straight line. So now I want to turn this front here, and I want to round out this front a little bit. But in order to do that, I need to add some segmentation to be able to get that to work. So I'm going to right click and choose edge. Right? Double click it to get that ring of that edge. That's now double clicked, which means it's looping all the way, edge loop, it's called. Go to mesh and do a bevel. And you see, it took one edge and turned it to two. Go ahead and just move this one up a little bit. Now, the problem also I'm running into is in order to get this to be rounder at the front, right now I only have one edge going down that way, right? So I'm going to double click that loop and do a bevel, just like I did. So there are ways that you could actually draw these on. There's a way of actually like creating edges. I'm just showing you the base here of just beveling it. See that? Now watch this. I'm going to select that edge, shift this edge. See? And model it so that it is just a little bit more rounded. See that? Not super rounded, but just slightly. Remember, we're low poly modeling now. If I really want that to be nice and perfectly round, remember, if I hit 3 on the keyboard, it does do that. But it also, see that? It does kind of collapse the sharp edges. Forgot. It's okay. I can still do, like I said, there's a couple ways to go about doing this. I'm just going to do it this way. Slide those guys back, and they're like, yeah, but that doesn't look really round. Watch how simple. Double click this one, which is that whole edge loop, and I can split it. See that? Going down the middle. See? So instead of one edge going down the middle, I have now two.
It's like split up into sections. You have to do that.
Yeah, just double click that. You got to double click. Now just go to edit mesh and bevel. Two. Right? All right, so the front of the board is looking good, right? We got that nice and rounded out. What about the back of the board? Well, what did our photo show us? Right about halfway here, right? Just before the chair section, the back, right about there, halfway, it leans back to half, and then we have a round back end. Okay? About here. Now, what am I going to do with this here? I'm going to, watch this, bevel it. Right about there. Okay. W, or the arrow move tool is what I'm using to move this. Okay. Now watch what I'm going to do here. Okay. Watch this now. I'm going to take this edge just in that direction and move it closer. Okay. I'm going to take this edge right here. And I'm going to move that one closer, but I'm also going to move it towards. See? Look at the shape it's doing. See that? If you need to, you could also do vertices and move those that way. You see what I'm doing is I'm just shaping this. I'm still dealing with square polys. And I'm only moving individual directions at any one time. I'm never moving from the center because I only want to move this in one direction. See that? Let me have my reference here to show you what I've done with this board. Do you see the shape? See that? Look at the segmentation on the inside to see what's called typology. Now, the topology is moving nicely like that. I only have edges where I need edges. If I wanted to, I could probably put one back there just to hold that together a little bit better. But don't need it. We're making a low poly model here. Do you see the shape? Now, again, it's not perfectly round. It's not perfectly round right there. But because I have this sharp slide right here, I put 2. Whenever you have corners, you want at least 2 edges. So you see that. That's why the closer the corners here, the more segmentation. No corners necessarily, no need for segmentation. The detail is only in those sharp corner details. On the keyboard, you can actually see if it was smooth at this point, which I'm not going to.
How did you move the individual segments again to get that?
In the back,
Because I have the double line that are near each other.
all I did in the back here is it looks just like that, except I started to slide them to, I started to slide them that way. One edge.
So you're still working with the edge tool.
Yeah. See, and I just split these only in the X or the red direction and the Z or the yellow direction. And why? Because why would disrupt and warp the board? All right, where are we? F8 and F8 again gets us back into our green mode. All right. Now, when we look at this in the perspective, you can see exactly how that shape is going to work with us. Back to the side view. Now, this is really cool here again. Watch this. Watch shade, X-ray. Watch shade, X-ray. It lets us see through that geometry. Now I've got this leg. What do you think I'm going to do with this one? Control D to duplicate it. Fade it. And get it to where, see where I'm already going with this.
What was the X-ray under again?
It's under the show tab at the top. So you see lighting, show, shading, shading, X-ray. All right, so you see, pretty easy to figure out here what I did. I took the one we haven't manipulated much of, Control D duplicated it, and then moved it into position so where it's now more or less lined up for that next board. It's a little wanky here. I could probably rotate it a little bit more, but again, it'd probably be best if I just rotated it on a nice round number, right? Instead of some random 20 point blah, 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 say 21 degrees. Yeah, that looks like it's right, 21. Like I say, a lot of times it wants whole numbers. It was probably built with whole numbers, right, when they built this chair. Okay. Now, before we go nuts with this, now remember, this particular board needs to be on the outside of the leg. So let's swap over to
Did you have to widen it?
this view. I did widen it a little bit, see? And line it up now outside that leg. See, it needs to be outside that leg.
Uh-oh.
Now we get to see what I was showing you. Instead of using edges right now, let's get the outside of the board as much as close to the shape it needs to be. Watch how I'm going to do it. Okay, instead of right-clicking and choosing edges right now, I'm going to right-click and choose vertex. But watch what I need to do, because remember, this board has thickness. If I just click on this vertex and move it to where it needs to be, you're going to see it left a vertex behind, which is the piece on the other side of the board. So you don't just click, you've got to put a box around it. And now I'm going to take that and line it up to where it needs to be. Do the middle one. Watch this. Select it and put it where it needs to be. So now that we've got here, right, all I've done is, but remember, put a box around it. So you're selecting not just the vertice on one side of the board, you got to get the vertice on the other side of the board. And you can line that up pretty well. And I could come down here and I could say, well, I have no real need for any segmentation between, we do have this little bit of curve here, okay? It stops here. So really, this guy here, right? This whole thing here, it pretty much just get moved to back down there, right?
Does it matter if I added a bevel to it?
You could bet, you can add a bevel as well. Not that important there. See? And now I can come here and say, yeah, well, maybe that needs to be here. That needs to be here. This guy here can be there. See that? We're tracing. So that is a great, quick, easy way to get that box to line up to that point. Now, here, this edge is going to need a bevel, but we're going to do a slightly different bevel on that one. So instead of just making one become two, right, let me go ahead and switch to edges. Okay. So I selected that edge loop right there in that gap. Now I'm going to come to bevel, but this time, instead of saying segments 1, I'm going to say segments 2. So I can make 1, instead of splitting 1, I can make 1 become 3. That. Now that means I can take this guy here, move him up to where that little curve starts to start. Just like that. The vertex, look at this, that there, vertex box, move that there. Just that easily.
I clicked on something and then it went.
Oh, you probably had something and then you hit F to focus in, hit A all. And remember that middle mouse is what allows you to zoom in and zoom out. Yeah, you just hit an F key, which meant to zoom in on the point that we had selected. So you see, all I did was take that one edge, beveled it into 3. I probably could have done 4 because if I look here, I actually could use 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 1, 2, 3. In fact, I'm going to undo and I'm going to do exactly that. That way it'll give me a flat surface for those seat boards to go onto. Okay, let's go. Do. They're right there. Watch this. Mesh, bevel, segments. Go there. And I'm going to put these segments now right in between where those boards are. And I can choose by vertex. Put those guys exactly where they need to be. So you see now, this is what you need to do when you're actually modeling. You have to say, hey, you know what? I've got a split between boards here. So maybe I should have a segment there and a segment there and a segment there. See that? Wherever we have a change in shape or edge, we can put a segmentation. Nothing going on here, so that's perfectly fine. That board's done, right? Go ahead and hit F8 twice. That gets you back into regular mode. Let's look at it in the perspective to see how that board's fitting. Good. Cool. The only thing I find weird about this design is there's definitely a piece that goes across the front here, but it doesn't make quite sense with that.
Yeah.
So it might be a situation where, you know, maybe this has to go to the opposite side. I'm not sure.
That's what it would look
I don't know for sure, but that might work like that. You can see that makes more sense because now we.
I think it's showing the inside of the chair on the.
Yeah, it's just showing you like an X-ray version. So that might very well go on the outside. Find out here in a moment. All right. It tells us a nice little, the next little cheat we can deal with, right? Which is from the front, this board, the original leg we used, right? Or not the original one, but the one that is uncut, this normal board here. And what am I going to do? I'm going to put it across here, okay? So it's lining up, which will basically act as the front. Let me show you what I mean by that, okay? Control D to duplicate. Rotate, go exactly number. Rotate this way. Exactly right, round number. Looks like it lines up right on that. Looks like it might be a little bit, needs to be a little bit wider here. See that? See how I'm looking at it? So it might need to be just a smidgen wider. And using this view, I'm going to line it up. Okay. Watch what I'm going to do here for making this half. Right? So this time I'm going to use face. I'm going to take half, put a box around the half, remove it. Come on, mouse. You gotta get this one. See, and move it to the center line. I can even just adjust this halfway between two. Okay, so if I go to perspective here, you'll see what did I do? Let me turn off my reference. It's black and hollow in the middle. See that? Lopped off half of it. Oh, okay. Good example. Let me show everybody this, okay? Because this is really important. There is a thing that happens in a short, there's a short key that triggers this stuff off. I can't stand it, okay? And it's called soft selection. Okay, so when you're doing something and it starts looking like this, right? You choose by edge or something here. See this? And you start getting, you know, colors, reds, yellows, whatever. If I choose vertices or something like that. See how it's got that color to it? That's soft selection. And soft selection is used for organic modeling, like modeling characters or, you know, animals or something. And what it does is it gets triggered. I hate it. It gets triggered. Here it is, just by double clicking the first arrow, tool settings, soft selection is active. And you can see what it's doing. It's using a gradient color here to designate an influence of selection. Okay, meaning, let me show you here.
So it's not like a harsh jagged edge kind of thing?
Let me just quickly do that. Let me show you what I'm talking about here with this plane. See, so let's say I want to sculpt this plane and I want to do it by vertex. Well, soft select, you see, but the fall off radius means that if I go and I take like that point and I move it, it's going to affect those around it, not just the points.
Oh,
So that works really cool. See, if I'm doing something like organic modeling or something like that, where I want a level of influence around that, which I have selected. See that?
that's my fours.
It's annoying when you're doing good, solid polygon modeling. To turn it off, double click on the arrow and deactivate. See, and now if you select a point, you're only selecting that point and not the points around it. That's it's a sculptural tool, which again, I can't stand because I don't like doing that. More of a hard surface modeler. And occasionally, guys, hit Control S just to save if you haven't saved yet, so you don't lose what you got.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay. It doesn't look like-
The next step I'm going to do is the seat boards, where you sit, right? And I'm going to use this front one that we just chopped off in half, right? So in case you were wondering, I took this plain ordinary board here, right? Rotated it so that it was half of the front and put it right in place. Show you that from a little different angle, see? And I used, of course, the front view to align it and get it all set up. I'm going to use the side view here to Control D. Rotate it. Scale it. See that? So it's in that first wooden bench position. See that? In fact, that's almost telling me this. But even this one here, you can say, yeah, that doesn't exactly line up properly. This one should be. Look here, all I've done is taken this front one, which was again a piece of this leg, centered up and cut in half. So it is open on this end. I have my reference to show you. And then I duplicated it and just rolled it around until it was located right like that. And then all I did was just duplicate it and rolled it around. So it's that first part right behind the knees. Just learning what they can do. What she just found out, guys, is that if you select an edge, a vertice, or something like that, or a face, you can use your right arrows and left arrows, up arrows and down arrows to select the next group. So in this case, watch this. So let's say, common problem, right? Where you're in here and you're like, oh, I wanna, it won't let me select, it won't let me select this back one here like this, right? If I right click, vertices, and I select the end ones here, right? Now again, I don't want these. I want these, but it wouldn't let me select it. If I just hit the right arrow, it'll chug over to the next one. And right arrow again, so you can move up and down, side to side. See? I'll use my right arrow and use my right arrow. Now I can get to these. See that? So I'm just using my arrow to grab, just like when we did an edge loop. If you selected an edge loop, watch this. See? I selected this edge loop here, watch. I can right arrow, go to the next loop and the next loop, see? Just using right arrows and left arrows. Kind of easier to grab stuff that way. So I left off here by taking that one front board, rotating it around and placing it at that location. Fun with this software, watch this. Okay, so I've got that board there. Looks pretty good. Okay, watch this now. This is pretty cool. Edit, duplicate with transform. Watch how neat this is. Duplicate with transform. Take this one, move it into its position. Now, what was the last tool I used? Duplicate with transform, right? So if I want to repeat duplicate with transform, the shortcut key is G. Watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit G. Change in its position, change in its rotation. Right? Watch now, G. See how it automatically read where to go next? Why not hit G again? It knew rotate just this little bit, move this much, and it's doing it. So that now all I need to do is just hit G one more time. And I'm just going to put this board there. So now in perspective, you see, I've got my seat done. See that? Okay. Let's do those again. Here. I've got my one. It's following a clear incremental change. So all I need to do here is duplicate this. Now, again, I can just hit Control D and move it into place, but I'm going to do a different type of duplicate. I'm going to call duplicate with transform, which is Shift D. Move this into its position. Rotate, transform, just like that. Now, G means repeat last step. Rotate this, put this in its next position, hit G again, and G again, and G again. Now, again, obviously here, it isn't exactly following the same, so it's not going to put those two. I really didn't need to do anything to them. Duplicate with transform. Now, I'm just showing you a shortcut. You can still just hit Control D and duplicate and then move it into place. But I didn't have to really move these much because it took into the rotate transform. That's a little bit off there. Yeah, I know. Now you can see where there's just a wee bit of rotation, but you know what? I'm not trying to make this absolutely perfect here. Spacebar all the time. All
I
right,
find I keep ending up with my image not centered anymore.
remember A all or F to frame it, or A frame all. And I find that when you're, especially in perspective, when you're tumbling along and everything, it'll start tumbling and get lost over here. You don't know what's up, what's down. Just hit A and it'll zero back out and let you tumble directly around. Yeah, this is it's part of the process of navigating, like I said. All right, so we have the back, right? Which is a bunch of boards with some weird shape to them. Well, we have our one good board here that we hasn't really been, messed with. So Control D, don't G, duplicate it. Right? Rotate it and rotate it. Look for your round numbers. 180, 180. And mine looks like it's about 62 degrees. No. So mine looks like it's 62, 180, 180 for that board. And we've been making them pretty much the same way, so it should also be that for you. Scale it to fit. Right? Now,
Why is one?
when you move to the front view to line this up for these boards, you're going to notice a problem. You're going to be like, it doesn't work. No, it works. It's just that it's behind our view. So this is another one of these shading x-rays so we can see it. And now we can say, all right, well, this is one solid board. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go for the center, not the true center, but the second board in. Because I only really need to make one that is this sort of shape. Like so, right? While I've got that, I'm going to duplicate and I'm going to put it down the center there as well. Okay, so I now have two of them here. And I'm not going to worry about the small board just yet because that's just going to be the big board that I'm just going to minimize the fit. Now, the problem I have here is I need to remove half this board, right? So I'm only working with half. But I also need to get another segmentation in there. So what does that mean? Selecting this edge, going down here, and doing another one of those bevel to get a secondary edge. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Edge, double click, that gives me now the right, that's going all the way around. Just show you here in the perspective. Let me go ahead and hide my reference. You can see it. See what I've done? And I'm going to do a bevel, but I'm going to actually do a bevel segment of 2. So I still have one going down the middle. Okay. I'm now going to go to the board next to it. Edge, double click. Once again, bevel. And this bevel, I can get away with just the 2. Okay, not 3.
How did you get the board to actually show up on the front of the image? Did you have to move
In the
it?
front view here, I shading X-ray. Shading X-ray. That's what allowed me to see through it so I can see what I've got.
You still should be adjusting the size a little bit.
Yeah, well, you can see I'm going to do that here. But before I do anything, I'm going to right click on this guy and get rid of the half I don't want. Watch. That's very similar to what we did before. Just watch. Going to right click and choose face. take the half, that whole half, see that? And delete. That will allow me now to go and choose vertex. Just move those up a little bit. What about this guy here? Vertex. Down a little bit. Down a little bit. Down a little bit. See that? Control D. Come on over here. Slide this guy down. See that? So it's lined up. And all I need to do here is just kind of take these vertices. I'm just going to shrink this board. It's got one extra group of segmentation, but it really doesn't matter. And line that up. Let me show you here what I've done. Hide my references, and you can see. Oops, broke my board. Why did I break my board? I broke my board here because I forgot about the rotation. Undo a second. See? Just move them straight down without taking it. I was in the wrong view, right? I was in the front view. I should have been in the side view. See, so I can keep these aligned. See that? So that they're properly being done. So again, use your views to line these guys up properly. Otherwise, you're going to break your boards and get all the fun. Like that.
So whenever you're moving the edges on like this, if you're looking from the front, you have to switch to the side or it will go wrong.
Like here, this viewport here, right? You would think, oh, just Control D, move it over, right? And move it down. That should be fine. No, because it's on a 62-degree angle, and you can see I need to go back, get it in the right position. It's still right here. Now it's right there. Now that tells me, yeah, well, then I've also got to correct these guys and get them where they need to be. So.
Essentially too short.
Right. Yeah. The last little bit I have here, guys, like I say, which you can see, again, I can use that leg. Control D. Rotate. Select by face, get rid of the faces we don't need. Select by vertex.
Now it's all like
So all you can see here I'm doing is I'm just grabbing another little board from that leg, that one leg, that good piece of lumber that pretty much spot on. I'm just putting it in place here according to for side reference. That. Use that down here. Get this little piece. Vertex.
They look all wonky.
Yeah. See what happened there. Let me show you a neat little trick here, guys. Yeah, because you can see this piece here. Oops, I scaled and rotated the wrong way because I was, again, looking at the side view when I should have been looking at different views. Watch how neat this is, because this is pretty cool. You see all this craziness that's going on here, right? All this numbers, all this. Once again, if I freeze it all, and you see it's on the wrong side of the red arrow. Watch this. If I scale -1, I can flip it right over just that easy. And then modify, freeze transformations, and you see it is exactly where I needed it to be. Once you have completed the chair, right? Looks good. Got all the pieces. Now it's robot mode, right? Select all your pieces. I'm drawing a box around your whole thing. You can do this in perspective. I hid my reference. And I'm going to mesh combine it. Remember we did that with the legs and the arms. Okay. Now the important thing though is once we combine it, go ahead and turn off my X, okay? I'm back in front mode. The easiest way though to mirror this or symmetry is to move this axis though is in the middle. See that how it's in the middle? We want to move the axes right on this middle edge. And the shortcut here is we'll click on insert, slide it over towards the edge, and insert again. We're moving what's called the pivot point because we want it to symmetry right there on that edge. This allows us now to go to mesh, mirror option box, merge border vertices, okay, and mirror. And we end up with the completed chair.
Okay, I got to combine.
Okay,
I got to combine.
once again, once we select it all, mesh combine. Look at it in the front and you'll notice that your gizmo is not on the edge. Click on the insert key, which is just above delete. Move that over to the very edge and hit insert to deactivate that. That means that all we will need to do is a mesh mirror to get it to duplicate that other side. And you see it has merged all of that together.
So we press the insert and then we move the thing and then what do we?
Sorry.
And move it to the center.
Insert, move to center right on that axis. Hit insert again to deactivate it. And then mesh mirror. or mere option to make sure that merge border vertices combined with original is activated. And then mirror.
Want to combine with original and merge border.
To merge into one solid mesh.
Do we click mirror or apply?
It's mirror. Apply just keeps that window open.
Oh.
Now, this is not necessary, but it's good eye candy, and I'm recording this, so you can always find it in the video. I'll edit that video because I keep getting to hit pause. What if you wanted to put a texture on this chair? Very basic wooden texture to make it look like wood. Well, we do a Google image search like this, and we find a piece of wood, right? Then that'd be fancy. And I'm just going to right click, save the image as, but where am I saving it to? I'm saving it to the folder, extruded poly chair, folder, default, source images, the same place we put the reference images. And I'll just call this wood texture. Just a JPEG is fine. And now, just watch this now. Now, if I grab like a texture, like a Fong, like we used when we did or a blend, like we did on the Ribbon Man, color, just like we did before with the reference, file, folder, wood texture, open. Watch this now. I select it, right click it, and assign it. And I can now turn off and you see, I very easily just dropped on a wood texture. It's not perfect in any way, shape, or form. You can see where it's repeating itself, right? But we are getting the wood texture appearance. Not required, but it's a simple way of putting that wood to, because I don't really want to have time to go over full-on texturing here. Now, I could come over here and say, hey, automatic. That kind of will correct the texture placement a little bit better. See that? Now I can control bump, I can control, just how it's applying that texture to there. But in a nutshell, I've got myself a simple texture on there without getting complicated. Okay. And that is our chair. Now, when it comes time to submit this, guys, right now, it's a Maya binary file. You can give me the Maya, or try this, file, export selected, and choose an FBX. It's near the bottom here. FBX export file. You can put your last name, chair, or something like that on it. It's going to the scene file that we have already set up, export selection, which means here in the scenes, see, last name chair, it's an FBX, and all. And so when it comes to turning this in, because the first assignment I took by binary, I took videos, obviously, because I wanted to see their performance. But now, when you go to upload into module 2, all you have to do is find now, again, assignment folder, chair, project, scenes. Here is my last name chair, which is again an FBX file, and upload it there. There it is as an FBX. We put comments in here and submit it like that.
So you save as?
In Maya, yeah, you export selected, select it, file, export selected, and at the very bottom of your file formats, almost near the bottom, is the FBX. FBX is just, I want you guys to understand, FBX is a more universal file type than just Maya. So, I mean, you can open that in Studio Max. You can open that in Substance Painter. You can open that in ZBrush or Mudbox. It's a lot easier to just move it around. It's smaller file size. And it's just a better universal than just Maya binary. Because if you send me the Maya, you're sending me the reference images, you're sending me, the reference textures, you're sending me the layers, as opposed to just the FBX. Okay, so if I go file new here, I can import into this that FBX without all, see, with the textures, but without all the layers, without all that other stuff. And even looks a little different as an FBX. So you can see this, I can click on it, I can see the wireframe, I can activate textures if I want to see what that looks like.